Hello students, welcome to another class of structural analysis. This is Ahmed Abdullahad from Civil Engineering Department, ISL Engineering College. So we were discussing about all approximate method of analysis right from previous 4 or 5 classes, isn't it? So in those classes we've completed substitute frame method, portal method, and now today we'll take down cantilever method. So cantilever method is also one of those methods wherein we try to solve or we try to analyze the structure very quickly without having further or without having lengthy calculations. Okay, so let us take down the side heading as main heading as cantilever method of analysis. Cantilever method of analysis. Okay, so before going to the method, let us take down few assumptions. What are the assumptions and what are the things considered in this method, especially in cantilever method? Okay, so the first assumption is, I'll write down here, assumptions. So the assumptions which are considered in this cantilever method is, the first one is, there is a point of contraflexure. There is a point of contraflexure at the center of each member. So what is the meaning of this one? Suppose we have a frame like this. Okay, we have a frame, a rigid jointed frame like this of multi-story, that is, this is ground floor and first floor. So we'll be having horizontal members. Let us take this as A, B, C, D, E, F, right? This is ground floor and first floor. Fine. So here in this case, what we consider is, at this location, at every center of the member, we will be having point of contraflexure. What will be having? We'll be having point of contraflexure at center of each member, at the center of each member. This is the assumption which we have considered in portal frame method also, right? The same type of assumption is being considered in cantilever method also. Okay, so the second point is, the intensity of axial stresses, the intensity of axial stresses in each column of a story, in each column of a story is proportional to the horizontal distance, is proportional to the horizontal distance of that column from the center of gravity, from the center of gravity of all the columns of the story under consideration. So the meaning of this point, especially this point, this is the gist of this method, wherein whatever the things which are written here in this point, that is in the second point, I will explain this thing in the problem itself, because we need a problem, we need a frame to explain this second assumption. So just I'll read out the second assumption, that is the intensity of axial stresses in each column, that is in each column, in these columns, the axial stresses in these columns, the axial stresses in these columns of a story is proportional to the horizontal distance of that column. That is, the axial stresses developed in this column is directly proportional to the horizontal distance, of that column from the center of gravity. So that means we'll be having a center of gravity of the frame, right, of all the columns under consideration. So what we actually do in this point, I will explain you directly in the problem itself. Okay, this is very very important point. This is the gist of the entire method. If we follow the second assumption, then the entire problem will be easy for us. Okay, now let us take down the steps involved in this cantilever method. Steps in cantilever method. Okay, steps involved in cantilever method. So the first step in cantilever method is location of centroidal axis. First is location of centroidal axis. Okay, very very important point. Then next is axial force in the column of first story. Next step is to find the axial forces in column of first story. Then the third step is axial force in column of second story. Okay, axial force in column of second story. Then fourth point is you have to calculate shear at the end of beam. Shear at the end of beam. Fifth one is moment at the end of beam. So basically we have totally 5 steps. If we have a single story, then this point will be omitted. Okay. So to basically we have 4 steps. If we have multi-story, that is 2-story, then we'll be having totally 5 steps in the problem. Okay. So let us take down one problem related to cantilever method. Okay. So the question will be like this. Take down the question. The question is, analyze the frame shown in figure using cantilever method of analysis. Okay, so the frame is given to us in the question. I will draw the frame here. So this is the frame given to us in the question. Now whenever they give us the frame, first what we have to do, we have to name the frame. So we'll name this as A, B, C, D, this point as E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and L. So these are the names I have given to us. I have given to the frame A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H and I, J, K, L. And the distance between AB is 7 meters and distance between BC is 4 meters and distance between CD is 5 meters. Okay, so EF and FG and GH respectively, along with that IJ, JK and KL, the distance between them is 7 meters, 4 meters and 5 meters respectively. Alright, so now the very first step in the calculation of cantilever method is, what is the first step we do? Location of centroidal axis. So first is location of centroidal axis. So how to locate the centroidal axis? Suppose for example, I don't know where is the centroid of this entire frame. So what I will do, I will take down the centroid as somewhere here. Okay, I don't know exactly where is the centroid of this figure. So let us take this as the centroid. Okay, this will be the, let this be the centroid, and the distance between the centroid and from column AEI, column AEI, be x bar. Okay, this distance be the distance of centroid. Okay, so I'll name it here, I'll write here, let the centroidal axis be at a distance x bar from column AEI. Okay, and we know how to calculate centroid of the figure, right? So before going to the centroid, what we will do, we'll take down this distance as, okay, x1. So x1 is the distance from the vertical column AE to the centroid. Similarly, let us take this as x2. Okay, from each and every column I am taking. Let this be x2. Then distance from centroidal axis to column CGK be x3, and distance from centroid to column DHL as x4. Okay, these are the terms I am taking. So how to calculate our centroid? Centroid can be calculated with the help of x bar is equal to a1 x1 plus a2 x2 plus a3 x3 plus a4 x4. How many x's are there? x1, x2, x3 and x4, right? Divided by a1 plus a2 plus a3 plus a4. And since here we do not have any areas given to us in the question, so what we will do, we'll consider same area, considering same cross sectional areas, same areas let us take. Okay, if we take same area, then what happens to x bar? X bar will be equal to ax1 plus ax2, right? Then what happens? A into x1, no? x1 plus a2 ax2 plus ax3 plus ax4 whole divided by a1 plus whole divided by a plus a plus a plus a. Totally 4 areas. Now if you take down the centroid of this x1, A into 0 moment, okay, then A into 7, this is the next one, this is x1, right, then plus A into 11, so this is 0, then this distance is how much, 2 7, then A into 4, then A into 11 plus A into 16 whole divided by 4A. That implies what will happen to x bar? X bar is equal to, if you take A common, you will get 7 plus 11 plus 16 whole divided by 4A. A and A will get cancelled. So ultimately, you will get the value of x bar is equal to 8.5 meters. What is the value now? The value of x bar is now 8.5 meters. Value of x bar is equal to 8.5 meters. Alright, we got the value of x bar. So location of centroidal axis is over. Now after calculation of x bar, we can calculate the value of x1, x2, x3, right? We can easily calculate the how. So how will you calculate x1, x2, x3? See here, we know x1 is equal to x bar, which is equal to 8.5 meters. Similarly, x2 is equal to how much? X2 is equal to 8.5 minus 7. You will get it as 1.5 meters. Similarly, what about x3? x3 is equal to 4 minus x2, right? So 4 minus x2 will give you 4 minus 1.5, which is equal to 2.5 meters. What about x4? x4 is equal to 2.5 plus 5, which is equal to 7.5 meters. So we got all the values of x1, x2, x3 and x4. Okay, so we have calculated all the centroids and we have calculated the centroid along with x1, x2, x3 and x4. So what is the second step we have? Second step is the calculation of axial forces in columns, right? So the second step I'll write down here. Second step is axial forces in columns. Axial forces in columns. So let us take down the figure given to us. So now we will calculate the axial forces in each column now. So first of all, let us begin with the first story. Okay. So what do you mean by first story? That is the ground floor. So for story 1. So if you consider story 1, we have to assume the force, that is, let the axial force in column, the axial force in column EI is equal to V1 is equal to V. Okay, so what I am considering, let us assume that this is the force EI, because we have to start from ground floor, right, first story. So that is why I am considering a force in downward direction. In any direction you can consider, I am considering in downward direction. So let this be V1, another force be V2, and remaining two forces should be in upward direction, that is V3. We have to balance. Then V4. Okay, so we got V1, V2, V3 and V4. So this is V1, V2, V3 and V4. V1, V2 are going in downward direction, whereas V3, V4 is going in upward direction. Okay, so directions are important which direction we have to consider. Both if two forces are going in upward direction, then remaining two forces should go in downward direction. This is very, very important. And now I will explain you the second assumption what we have considered in the assumptions in the initial part of this video. That is, I'll write here, since the area of all columns, since the area of all columns are equal, the axial force in other columns, the axial force in other columns will be proportional to their distance from centroidal axis, So the meaning of this point is, what is the shear force? What is the force, axial force considering what we are considering? We are considering it as V1 by x1 is equal to V2 by x2 is equal to V3 by x3 is equal to V4 by x4. This is nothing but the presentation or explanation of the second of this point, that is V1 should be is proportional, for axial force is proportional to the other columns distances. Okay, so what happens here, if you substitute the value of if you equate these two terms, and we know V1 is equal to V, right? We have taken here V1 is equal to V. Alright, so let us take down and equate each and every term. That is V1 by x1 is equal to V2 by x2. So we know V1 is equal to V. So V by, what is the value of x1 we have? We know the value of x1, right? Let us write it x1 only here. V2 by x2. So that implies, what will be the value of V2? V2 is equal to x2 by x1 into V. Okay, if you simplify this one, you will get the value of V2 as 0.176 V. V2 is going in which direction? You can see here it is going in downward direction. So let us show it in downward direction. So this is our V2. Okay, similarly we'll equate this term with the third term to get the value of V3 in terms of V. That is, V by x1 is equal to V3 by x3. That implies V3 is equal to x3 by x1 into V. x3 by x1 into V. So if you simplify further, you will get the value of V3 as 0.294 V. 0.294 V, and this force is going, V3 is going in which direction? Upward direction. Okay, similarly we'll equate these two terms now, V1 and V4. So V by x1 is equal to V4 by x4. That implies V4 is equal to x4 by x1 into V. That implies V4 is equal to 0.882 V. Okay, and it is also going in upward direction. So we've calculated the values of V V1, V2 and V3. Now what we have to do here, we have to find the value of V now. Okay, we have to find the value of V here, which is very, very important. So how to calculate that? See here. So finding the value of V, finding the value of V now. So to calculate the value of V, see here, what we will do here, you see. We'll take moment of all forces about point M is equal to 0. At this point, we'll take moment, because at the center we know, we all know that we have a point of contrafluxion, which is the first assumption in our problem. Okay, so here these are the forces, that is V1, then we have V2, then we have V3, then we have V4. Okay, so moment of all forces about point M is equal to 0. That implies we have this 120 kilonewton load, which is the total distance is 3.5 plus half of 3.5. You will get some value here to here. So 120 plus into 5.25. I'll write with black pen. Just write it, 120 into 5.25 plus 180 into 1.75, that is this force into perpendicular distance till here, 3.5 divided by 2, you will get 1.75, plus we have V1 also, which is going towards the value, that is V1 into 0 plus V2 into 7 minus V3 into 11 minus V4 into 16 is equal to 0. Okay, so if you substitute the values of V1, V2, V3 and V4 here in this equation, you will get the value of V. This value you will get it as 945 plus all these values. If you substitute directly, you will get the value of V, which is equal to 58.64 kilonewton. V is equal to 58.64 kilonewton. So once we know the value of V, we'll take down the values of other V's also. That is, we know V1 is equal to V, which is equal to 58.64 kilonewton. Next we have V2, which is equal to 0.176 V. If you substitute the value of V, you will get 10.35 kilonewton, and we know that these two forces are going in downward direction. And then we have V3, which is equal to 0.294 V, which is equal to 17.24 kilonewton, and this force is going in upward direction. Similarly, we'll calculate V4. So the value of V4 in terms of V is 0.882 V. Substitute the value of V as 58.864 kilonewton. We'll get the value of V4 as 51.72 kilonewton, and this force is going in upward direction. Okay, and always remember, or whatever the forces which are going in downward direction, that is these two forces are going in downward direction, V1 and V2, these two forces are going in up, and remaining two forces, that is V3 and V4, they both are going in upward direction. So V1 plus V2 should be equal to V3 plus V4. So to simplify this one, if you add this force, if you add V1, that is 58.64 plus 10.35, then if you add these two terms, you should get 0. Okay, both the values should be same, these two values and these two values. The two forces which are going in downward direction and the two forces which are going in upward direction should be equal. Okay, now nextly, this is for story 1 we have calculated. Now we'll go for story 2. Okay, for story 2 we have to calculate, so that part will take down in our next video. Okay, thank you. Hope you have understood what are the assumptions and what are the methods and steps followed in this method, that is cantilever method of analysis. All right, so in the next class we'll take down remaining three steps, that is calculation of moments and calculation of shear forces, in the next class. All right, thank you.